Are you fighting with your toddler about food? Well, a power struggle over food with your toddler can create disruptions at mealtime and can change your dynamic with your toddler. It can also create negative eating behaviors. In this video, I'm going to teach you about what a power struggle is and how you can reduce power struggles so that you kill that tension at the dinner table and have a better relationship with your toddler. I'm reviewing the most common power struggles parents have with their toddlers, and I'm going to give you some strategies to overcome these. I'm hoping that I can turn that power struggle into a powerful alliance for you and your child. Because power struggles change how your toddler feels about food, possibly you, and can change their food preferences and eating habits. So what is a power struggle with food? Well, power struggles tend to happen when you serve your child food and they refuse to eat it. And then a whole host of dynamics start to happen. You might find that your toddler digs in his heels, won't eat, and you get frustrated and don't know what to do. Don't worry, I'm going to help. If you're threatening, forcing, bribing, coercing your toddler to eat food when you make it, and they're digging in and refusing, this can create a whole negativity around the food environment. What happens? Your toddler digs in even deeper and doesn't want to eat. This is what a power struggle is. It's that push-pull between the parent, you, and your toddler. Somebody's trying to get control, and oftentimes the toddler wins. When we look at the science and we look at what these things that we do as parents to try to get our kids to eat, things like restricting food, rewarding them with food, or pressuring to eat, none of this works. It actually backfires. What the science tells us is it doesn't help children eat healthier. It actually helps them favor less nutritious foods. So if you feel like you've ever been in a power struggle with your child, let me know. Like, comment, follow this channel. I can relate. I had it myself with my own children, and I can tell you we all survived, and you will too. So what are the most common power struggles with food? I'm going to review them. 1, pressuring your child to eat. So what does that look like? That's when you bring food to the table, your toddler's in their high chair or they're in their little short seat at the table, and you put the plate down with food and your child pushes it away. They say no, they start to have a tantrum or a meltdown, and you're hovering over them saying, oh, come on, sweetheart, just take a bite of this, you'll like it. Oh, don't you want to try another bite of that broccoli? Have you ever tried that drink? It's delicious. These are all examples of pressure to eat, and pressure to eat creates a power struggle. Another common power struggle is using restriction. So restricting the foods that you don't want your child to eat. So that might be candy or sweets or chips or cookies. These foods, which tend to be more indulgent foods or minimally nutritious foods, can be something that children love to eat, but their parents don't want them to eat so much of. And so in order to control the eating of these foods, sometimes parents will restrict them. Again, we know this doesn't work. It just makes children want those foods more and start to develop behaviors around accessing those foods. So they might sneak them, or they might hide them and hoard them for eating later when nobody's watching. So this certainly isn't probably going to happen with your toddler. However, if you restrict foods now, you're setting your toddler up later for having some of these unhelpful eating behaviors. Another common power struggle is hiding foods into the foods your child already likes. So sneaking vegetables into their macaroni and cheese, for example. When your child already likes a food and then you try to add something that they don't like into it, you're almost guaranteeing that you're going to ruin that food for your child. So sneaking and hiding vegetables into foods your children already likes is not a good practice and can create a power struggle. I hinted about this one earlier, but another common power struggle is bribing your child with dessert. So for example, if you want your child to eat green beans, you might say, if you eat the green beans, you can have ice cream later. That's bribing or using food rewards, which oftentimes are sweet foods, to incentivize your child to eat a target food. And in this case, it would be the green beans. So this creates a power struggle because children are onto these things. They know that their parents are trying to get them to eat, and these little tactics, which don't work, can spur on resistance in your toddler. And resistance creates a power struggle. Punishing your toddler is another way to ensure a power struggle. When we take away toys, or we take away TV, or we take away the iPad because our toddler isn't eating the foods we want them to, you can guarantee there's going to be resistance, there's going to be tantrums, and you're going to fall into that trap of a power struggle around food. And the last one is controlling food, or trying to control it by hiding it or keeping it out of reach, making it forbidden or a taboo. It's similar to restricting foods that I talked about earlier, but controlling food is a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more well-intentioned, but it has the same effect. It draws children to those foods, and it can create that power struggle, that dynamic between you and your toddler, especially if they want those foods and you're unwilling to provide them. So again, why is a power struggle so bad? Well, it's because it can change your child's viewpoint on food, it can change the way they think and relate to you, and it can change the way they prefer foods and their eating behaviors. So power struggles are no bueno. We want to stay away from them, and I'm going to teach you how right now. Make sure you stay here to the very last one because it is a good one. So the first tip or strategy I have for you is to use the division of responsibility, which was created by Ellen Satter. This is basically dividing the job that you have as a parent from the job that your child has as an eater. So as a parent, your job is to decide what you're serving for mealtime, shopping for the food, preparing it, and getting it on the table. That is your job. Your child's job is to take what you've offered them and decide whether they're going to eat it, and they're going to decide how much they're going to eat. When you start to tell your child what they're going to eat and how much they're going to eat, we get this weird dynamic happening between the two individuals, the parent and the child. And when the child starts to tell the parent what they're going to shop for, what they're going to prepare, and how they're going to prepare it, that gets weird also. So we want to maintain our jobs. We want to keep our job, which is, deciding what's being fed, when it's happening, where it's happening. That's our job. We want to keep that job, and we don't want to interfere with our child's job. So maintaining that division of responsibility is the first step to preventing power struggles. The second step is pretty obvious. Don't use food as reward. This is one of the most common things that happens in toddlerhood. Parents think and see that using dessert is very effective. It gets their toddler to do exactly what they want them to do. But the problem is food rewards, they don't last, and they don't change eating preferences or eating behaviors. So they're a Band-Aid, they're a quick fix. They do not motivate a child on the inside, what we call intrinsic motivation, to like the foods that you want them to eat. So don't use food as a reward. It won't work for the long run. If you use it in the short term, don't feel bad about that, but just know that it's not going to move the needle in terms of helping your toddler develop nutritious food preferences. When we look at the science around using food rewards, we know that it increases the likelihood of emotional eating and picky eating. So put that little nugget in your hat. The third tip is to make sure whenever you make a meal or whenever you make a snack that you're considering your toddler's food preferences. Meaning, make at least one of the food items on the menu something that you know your toddler is familiar with, likes to eat, or can eat. So this might be a cheese stick, or it might be an applesauce cup, or some crackers that you add to the meal. When you add a preferred food or a familiar food to the meal that you're making, it eases the anxiety for that toddler. It helps your toddler come to the table and say, oh, I see something I like to eat. And that builds security, that builds This sense of I can get through this meal because there is something here that I know and like and I can eat. Of course, you don't want to make the whole meal full of your toddler's favorite foods. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying at least one food is a familiar food that your child knows and likes and is able to eat. Another way to do this is to offer family style meals. And I have a video about family style meals. You can check it out, how to do them and why they're so great for kids, no matter the age. But family style meals basically means you're deciding that menu, but you're putting everything out in the middle of the table and you're helping your toddler decide which foods from what you've made will go on their plate. It's a great way of transferring control over to your toddler and reducing those power struggles. And the fourth tip, the last tip, is to make sure you use a feeding schedule. So this is for toddlers going to be every 2.5 to 3 hours. There's going to be a meal or a snack available for them to eat. This does not mean they have to eat. It's just available. It's an option. And the reason why we schedule it in this frequency is because toddlers have tiny tummies, they empty fast, and so they get hungrier faster. Also because their tummies are so small, they don't eat as much food as you and I can eat. And so getting all the nutrients in during the day means that we need to feed them just a little bit more frequently. Having meals and snacks occurring at a predictable schedule or in a predictable frequency eases the anxiety around when the next meal or snack is coming. It makes them very predictable, and it also reduces the chances that your toddler will want to graze for food in between meals and snacks. A child who's always hungry, who is eating too infrequently during the day is going to have a higher risk of being more hungry, and that's going to set up that environment where you and your child could be in a power struggle because your child wants to eat and you might not be willing to let them eat. And so again, having that predictable eating schedule eases that anxiety and tension, makes things predictable, and also covers your child's nutritional needs. So here are my final thoughts for you. First, be patient and don't react when your child refuses to eat. Remember, I have other videos on why children don't want to eat, why they get into food jags, why they're afraid of trying new foods. Make sure you check out those videos so it can ease your frustration and your worry, because when you get too frustrated and you get too worried, we start to get a little bit more anxious and overpowering when it comes to feeding our toddlers. Always make eating and the environment around eating positive. We want our toddlers to learn that eating is an enjoyable part of the day, not something to be dreaded, not something to be avoided. That can be done when you keep that eating environment pleasant, positive, and your demeanor yourself is optimistic and engaging and positive as well. Teach your toddler about their hunger and fullness signals. So when your toddler is hungry, you can use the word, "Oh, it sounds like you're hungry." If your toddler's melting down, if your toddler hasn't eaten in 2 or 3 hours, you can connect that feeling that they're having or the behaviors that you're seeing to a sense of hunger. Likewise, when your toddler starts to push the tray away or food away when they're done eating or resist anymore, you can associate that sense that they're having in the moment with fullness. You can say things like, "Oh, I see that you must be full now. You don't want any more food." We have to teach our toddlers to associate these internal feelings with the words, because you're going to want to use those words as your toddler grows up later in life. And last, establish that meal and snack schedule. You will thank me later. It will keep your day and your routine on such a nice rhythm, and it will train your toddler to recognize when they're hungry and be more sensitized to their fullness. So before we leave each other, tell me in the comments below, what is the current power struggle that you're experiencing with your toddler? That's it for today. I hope this was helpful to you. Make sure you check out my other videos on this platform. They're all designed to help you nourish, nurture, and feed your toddler and any child you have in the family. Bye for now.